Welcome back to Contact Talk Radio, everybody. My name is Cameron Steele.
This is Lucia Minetti-Steele.
And on the phone, of course, we have a very well-known actor and also spiritual teacher. His name is Richard Chamberlain. Welcome to the program, Richard.
I prefer to think of myself as a spiritual student.
Spiritual student? Well, all right. Well, we're all students and we're all teachers, I think, to each other, really.
Right.
So, Richard, my first question to you, of course, is, being as well-known as you are, what led you into doing this type of workshop and spreading the, doing what you're doing?
Well, it started centuries ago when I was a kid. I think I've always been interested in what makes people tick, what makes me tick,
right,
and what life is about. And I started out my life with a considerable lack of confidence. I don't know quite why. It often happens to children of alcoholics. I just didn't think I was worth much. But underneath that, I felt that there was something possibly worthwhile underneath all the fear. And so, anyway, to jump ahead to my 20s, I found I was very unhappy in my early 20s. And my singing teacher suggested that I go to a therapist that she knew. And the therapist turned me on to the works of Krishnamurti, I guess. And I was quite dazzled by his writing and thought, gosh, there's a lot of truth here, but I haven't the faintest idea how to apply it to my life. I can appreciate it, but I can't live it. And then I was in other kinds of therapy and spiritual workshops. I did a wonderful workshop with a teacher named Brew Joy for about 17 days. This was in about 76. And that I found a very heart-opening experience. It's the first time I'd ever sort of abandoned my fear, at least temporarily, and been with a group of people who I learned absolutely to trust, and I learned to trust myself. Of course, that when you get out of the workshop, then you have to deal with the real world again and the unreal world. And but anyway, I've been interested, and several of the teachers, like David Spangler, whom I've worked with, I've become friends with, which I never ever dreamt would happen, but it did happen. And more and more as I get older, I've been thinking about life, and it becomes more and more fascinating to me, and it's just fun to talk about with people.
Well, it certainly is. Now, I just want to tell people that what's happening here, you're going to be in town. You're going to be in Seattle here.
Yes.
It's called An Evening with Richard Chamberlain. It's a fundraising event to benefit our nonprofit Stonehouse, of course, Stonehouse Bookshop. And you're going to be in town Wednesday, October 30th, 2002 at the Cadle Theater. For more information, folks, you might want to go to stonehousebooks.org, and you'll find all kinds of information there. And you're also going to be doing a book signing, which we want to talk about, the book called Towards Love, and your special weekend workshop, Standing in Self, Practical Applications of Spirituality in Everyday Life. And you're actually doing this with, speaking of, David Spangler.
Yes.
So let's talk about the book first, Towards Love. What's your...
Well, the book isn't... I haven't even finished the book yet. It's supposed to be published, sort of early-ish next year.
Right, okay.
And it's called Towards Love, yes.
And what's...
And it's really... I call it a kind of philosophical memoir. It's about just what we were talking about earlier, about my life and my thoughts about life, kind of mixed together in a a sort of quirky memoir.
Oh, well, it sounds like it's going to be a very interesting read, I think, for a lot of people. Now, to the workshop, Standing in Self, Practical Applications of Spirituality in Everyday Life. Now, you know, this is something that I mean, Lucia and I are both doing practical applications for our everyday life when it comes to our own spirituality. And, of course, like everybody, we fall off the wayside sometimes.
Yes. But that's part of it.
Well, exactly. So
falling off is not to be sneered at.
No, it isn't. In fact, I think it's a good lesson. You know, you can recognize when we fall off and go, oh, okay, I need to get back on here again. What's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what can people expect to learn in this workshop then?
Well, the workshop is going to it's going to be rather spontaneous, I think. I don't like to be too methodical about my presentations. I like to kind of feel the audience and feel myself in the audience and let things happen. But it will be about what is a self anyway. I mean, that's one thing that interests me very much. Mm-hmm. It seems to me that the self is about 8 million different things.
Isn't that the truth?
Yes. And I find in myself that there's a part of me that can, on occasion, connect briefly with something much larger than me and very loving. And that there's the part that gets depressed and angry and judgmental and all that stuff, which I find almost equally interesting now that I've begun to really look at it. But the fact that it's very possible that we all partake of the same mind and perhaps even the same soul, who knows? Mm-hmm. And yet we function, and rightly so, as individual separate creatures, and how to find some kind of balance there. The central question of my book is it possible to live one's life open-heartedly no matter what life throws at you? Is it necessary to get into the negative, or is it possible to deal with life without ever getting into the negative at all? Except as a lesson to learn that you're getting into the
negative. Well, sometimes we're surrounded by it, and so that's I mean, ultimately, that's a fantastic question, because how do we live positively in a world that, I mean, let's face it, in reality, there is a lot of negativity happening.
Absolutely.
And so, we could walk around with our blindfolders on saying, oh, I create my own reality and there's no violence in my world, and you're just in denial.
No, I'm not suggesting that for a second. I'm suggesting that...
I was saying that people do that.
Yes, absolutely. I'm suggesting that love has its own intelligence.
Right.
Love is smarter than our thoughts, even. And if you watch your negative stuff, if you watch the desire for revenge, if you watch your hatred, if you watch sitting, like, I can sit in an airport and judge people like crazy. Oh, that person is so sloppy. Oh, those kids are so noisy. Don't they know what they're doing? Oh, those people look so boring. And
I just think of myself. I've been in those shoes,
yes.
waiting for a plane or sitting at the,
yes.
And you go there. Your thoughts just go there.
Yes.
And
and looking at that, I can see myself. First of all, I see myself doing it, and I think, Richard, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And then I remind myself of two things. This is a very, very tough world we live in, and then I start wishing people well. Good luck, kids, because this is a hard place. And then I also remind myself that we're all part of the divine. One of my theories is that there probably isn't a God over there. I think that my working definition of God is that it's everything there is. There's nothing but God. And but anyway, getting back to negativity, if you for instance, if you look at hate, if you find somebody you hate, like George W. Bush or Saddam Hussein or
right.
one of those people.
We could do a whole show on that.
Yes, we could. And you look at the process. First of all, hate takes you right away from the person.
Yeah.
There's no relationship between you and the person you hate. There's only a relationship between you and your thoughts about that person. The person disappears, is out of the picture. So first of all, in terms of hatred, there's nobody else there. There's just you and your thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, I have another theory that wishing anybody ill is self-destructive.
Oh.
It's self-destructive. And so why do it?
Mm-hmm.
Why not take a look at George W. Bush, for instance,
mm-hmm.
and see who he is, what he's doing, and then, if you want to deal with that open-heartedly, then you write your congressman, you write him letters, you do whatever is necessary to try to change policy. But you don't have to do it out of hate.
Well,
you do it out of good sense.
Well, you see, this is it. And in fact, on our website, contactradio.info, in the forum section, you'll go into announcements, folks, and you can find links to all the government congressmen, including the White House, if you want to send letters or email. You know, this is, Richard, this is the big thing of what people really need to do is find their hearts and write the letter.
Yes.
Not out of hatred.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, because, you know, you're right. When you're doing something out of hatred, you're only perpetuating that which you hate.
Sure.
You know, and if you want peace, then you've got to find the peace within yourself to write the letter from a peaceful place.
Absolutely.
You know, that's so true. Now, how do you see, what are your thoughts on what's happening in our world right now? What can people do to change the consciousness that we're experiencing? You know,
it seems to me like, talking from the grand heights of a spiritual teacher.
Yes.
It seems to me that the only place to start is with oneself. I think our society, our culture, what's going on, our world is us. It's us. It's nobody else.
Yeah.
It's you and it's me.
Mm-hmm.
And so the most fundamental thing I can do for the world is to change myself and to encounter my own violence, to counter my own stupidity, to counter my own ignorance, to encounter is what I'm saying, to deal with all those things I dislike in the world within myself. And I think that's the most fundamental and the most effective thing any of us can do. I think just sheer prayer is very useful because it transforms us as it transforms the total energy. But I think humanity is one big stew, and we add our own ingredients. And the best thing we can do is to purify and lift up the ingredients that we personally add to humanity.
Yeah, I mean that's so true. That's so true. Well, you know, it's people like yourself. I mean, you're very well known throughout the world with a ton of movies that you've done. That when you come out and you speak like this, it really offers people, because you know it's interesting when very well known people like yourself do come out and talk about their own personal growth and their own spirituality. It really inspires other people to move in that direction as well.
Well, that's good. That's good. I've certainly been inspired by people.
Yeah.
And that's good.
And so, do you think that there should be more celebrities such as yourself? And I use the word celebrity because that's really what you are. That would come out and speak like this. Do you think it would really make a difference in our world right now?
Well, I saw Richard Gere on one of those method workshops, actor studio programs the other day, and just his sheer presence. He didn't talk about his beliefs much. He did a little bit, but there was something so clear and so honest about his presence that I was really touched and moved and probably inspired by it. But it's not just because he's an actor. But on the other hand, his being an actor gives him a certain size and energy in his communication.
Yes.
He's used to being watched and listened to, and when that happens, it can expand your energy, and simply by yourself giving yourself permission, the local bank teller may not give him or him, I don't know what to, give him or herself that permission, but the energy is probably there latent, or perhaps they do.
Well,
but anyway, yes, but any celebrity who does it has to be on the level.
Yeah, well, of course, because something. It's interesting when I was in a workshop a few years ago, and it was actually my first workshop. It was about 200 people there, and I felt so loved in this workshop.
Yeah.
I actually ended up standing on my chair. And so I just expressed myself, saying how much I appreciate being here and what I'm learning. And all of a sudden, the whole room and the whole energy in the room changed, and it gave everybody else permission to feel that.
Yes, absolutely.
So if one person can make a difference in a room of 200 people, if we all stand up and express our feelings at the same time, and it just gives other people permission to do such a thing.
Yes. But not as if we know everything, but because we're feeling it right now, and because it's real to us.
It's right. It's a feeling. It's a feeling movement,
Yeah.
And I think somebody had spoke to me the other day and said that I don't have any more ego.
Uh-oh.
And I said, really? And I said, don't you think that's an egotistical statement to begin with? But this is some of the mentality that is out there. So how do we move through that? I mean, in the workshop you're going to be talking about practical applications. So perhaps you could talk about a couple of those applications that we could share with people about to experience.
Yes, there's a teacher named Byron Katie who works in California, and one of her dictums is what happened to her. She had this she was incredibly dissatisfied with her life. She had an alcohol problem, she had family problems, she had all kinds of problems, and she just was bored to death with herself. And she finally, in desperation, went out into the desert somewhere and had a long, long look at herself and had this astounding experience in which she fell head over heels in love with reality, with what is. She didn't want to change it. She didn't want to do anything about it. She just fell in love with what is. And her premise is that what is God, as I was saying before. What is, not what we think should be, not what we think God should be, not all that, but what is God right now. And so the important thing for us to do is to look at what's right in front of us, right now, and what's within us, right now.
You say that with such passion, Richard. I felt that passion. It's wonderful.
And that's where the truth is. The truth isn't someplace else. It's not in a book. I mean, books can be helpful and stuff. The truth is right in front of us, right within us, right now, what's happening. Not what we think should be happening, not what we expect to happen, but what is happening. And then if we can get in touch with that, if we can open our eyes to that without judgments, without anything, then change happens. When you see your greed, when this person sees the egotism of that statement, when he's really aware of it, then he changes. He can't help but change.
That's right.
He sees, oh, that's what I'm doing, and he changes.
That's exactly. It's kind of like that's what I'm saying. I can't believe I just said that. And they see it.
No,
and they go,
but the point is, he must believe he just said that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And see himself saying it, and feel what it is to say that, and to give oneself that badge. I have a little chapter about I can't remember what the chapter is, but anyway, I asked the question: is it possible to succeed in the world without considering oneself a success? Is it possible to become a somebody without? Is it possible to find love and to find wisdom without labeling oneself loving and wise? And just do it.
Yeah. I love that. I love that because some of the it's how do you define success? Let's not define success. Let's see where you're at.
Yeah.
Let's not define what love is. How can you define what love is?
No, you can't.
Really, how do you define who God is? You can't.
You can't.
God is everything. God is whatever it is that you see him as or her as.
Yes.
Love the same thing. Now, it's interesting because when we talk about God, there is so many different definitions to what God is. And maybe, how do we in the world? I mean, with all the different beliefs and the structure of the structure of religion.
Yes.
I mean, that in itself is a disaster.
Yes.
Especially with with the recent events that have just taken place in the churches.
Yes.
How can we still stand there and look at these churches and consider them and put them on a pedestal? Do people not get it?
Yes.
It's frustrating to me, I think.
I was watching some kind of, I won't name the religion, but some kind of huge religious ceremony on television the other day in a giant church with all kinds of fancy costumes and things. And I thought to myself, what on earth has this to do with, it was a Christian religion.
Right.
What has this to do with loving God with all your heart and soul and loving your neighbor as yourself? That's all Christianity is about, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
That's it. Heaven and hell, forget it. I mean, in the sense of reward and punishment, I just don't think that's what Christ was talking about. We can make our own heaven, we can make our own hell, but goodness has nothing to do with reward and punishment. Goodness, the only goodness that's really, really good is one being good because one is good. And it just happens.
Well, something, you're right, because good is good. That's all there is.
Good is good. And if to do good for a reward, well, you might build a hospital, and that's good.
Yeah.
You might drive somebody to work. That's good. But goodness itself is not ever done for reward.
No, you see, and this is, I think this is could turn into another topic here, because when you're doing something for reward, you're putting expectations into something, and you can be setting yourself up for whatever patterns you have, perhaps disappointment or unsuccessfulness. So if it's helping somebody across the street, do it because you want to help, not because you expect them to say thank you.
Yes.
Because they may not say thank you. They may go about their life.
Yes.
Yes. And I think this is a very important point. And I just think that what you're doing with the work and what we've talked about here is just fantastic, Richard. I just think I applaud you for standing up as I've done with so many of the other guests we've had on. It's people like you that come out and start talking the truth about the beliefs and about really assisting people in seeing the possibilities out there.
Sure. And I think the possibilities are so enormous. I mean, if you've ever gotten into energy work, for instance.
Yes.
Imagine we all have this wonderful energy which we can give to each other, whether it's laying on of hands or whatever. This wonderful energy, and we just don't bother.
Well,
we just forget about it and don't bother.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
Well, I got to share a story with you on this note. We're talking about hands-on energy. We just recently, Lucia's with Jaden right now. That's why you haven't heard her. We have Jaden in the studio with us, our wee 19-month-old boy.
I thought I heard some infant sound.
Yeah, we were supposed to have a sitter, and unfortunately she backed out at the last minute. But anyways, we just started putting him into the crib on his own. And the other night I was lying in the bed, and he was in the crib, and he got up, he started crying, and I put my hands up as sort of to feed him some energy, and I put one hand by my heart and another one to sort of direct the energy.
Sure.
And I was focusing on seeing this energy going around him and embracing him as if it was me holding him, or if it was another being of light holding him. And within 5 minutes he was lying down asleep.
Fabulous.
Fabulous. It's just things like that. I think if we can do this.
Yes. We all can do it.
Exactly.
It's just we don't know we can do it. Well,
it's taking that aspect of it and saying, you know what, we can do this. And we talk about expectations earlier, and I said to Lucia earlier on, I said I had no expectations of the outcome of that. I said I have no expectations of whether it was going to work or whether it wasn't going to work. I just felt like this is what I needed to do.
Yes.
And so with that feeling, the outcome was he's asleep and he was gone for the night.
But that's exactly the intelligence of love. It's exactly it. There's nothing between love and the thing. You know, the mind has so many preconceived ideas about whatever it is it's going to look at. But love doesn't.
Yeah.
Love just sees the truth.
And love will prevail.
Yep.
You know,
well, eventually, yes.
Eventually, it will, yes. And I mean, here again, you know, it's if you're focusing on love, then that's what you're going to create around you.
Yep.
You know, just, you know, all I can say is not to expect what your definition of love is to have to be the outcome. Just let love do the work.
Yes.
You know, Richard, I know that you've got to go here, and we're running out of time already. So I want to go over the workshop with you here again. It's going to be, it's called Standing in Self, Practical Applications of Spirituality in Everyday Life with Richard Chamberlain and David Spangler. Now, David Spangler is the author of the book Blessing, the Art and the Practice.
Yes,
and
it's
just
the most beautiful book.
A fabulous book, fabulous book, and fabulous speaker. Now, you're going to be it's going to be Saturday and Sunday, November 2nd and 3rd, from 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. both days at the Mosswood Hollow Retreat Center in Duval, which is a beautiful place. The Mosswood Hollow Retreat Center in Duval. It's overnight accommodations and other meals optional. To register, just call the Mosswood at 425-844-9050. That's 844-9050, area code 425. You're going to be at Stonehouse, which I'm looking forward to meeting you finally.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
We're going to be there Wednesday, October 30th at the Cadle Theater, Lake Washington High School, and authors book signing reception and silent auction. And the silent auction, of course, is to raise funds for Stonehouse. And you've been to Stonehouse before a few times, haven't you? Yeah. And that's from 5 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. And then there's a gala book reading by yourself. You're going to be doing a intimate reading with from your soon-to-be released book titled Toward Love. You're going to have a question and answer period to follow, and then there's going to be some lovely desserts.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Good. I like desserts.
Yeah,
Good.
so there's lots happening that day. It's October 30th. Just call Stonehouse Books for reservations and for tickets. And Richard, I truly, from the bottom of my heart, want to thank you so much for coming on our show today. You're just there's so much more about you, and I hope that we can have an opportunity to have more time with you.
Well, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Sure. Love to.
So we will see you on October 30th.